into. Let's bring in our panel to confirm the relevance of this headline story. First, from Newsmax New York, Ellis Henican, and joining us via telephone, our good friend Niger Innis, Executive Director of the TeaParty.net. Ellis, a lot of conservatives, me included, have wanted to see Eric Holder gone for a long time. Karl Rove has been making the rounds saying, hey, Mr. Attorney General, thanks for your service, but good riddance. Anything shocking in this nearly universal conservative response to you?
No, of course not, because he's the Attorney General for Barack Obama. You all don't like the legal policies of Barack Obama, and so of course you're not going to like him. You're not going to like the next guy, JD, and if there's a guy after that, you probably won't like him either.
Well, yeah, it's because we disagree with policy.
Right, of course. But you know what? You know what we should do, though? Let me show you a bunch of ways in which you all should like Eric Holder, because he's done a lot of things that you guys should support if you'd open your minds a little bit.
Oh, we're going to have, here it comes now. Niger, get ready. It's time for mind opening.
I didn't have my comedic moment for the morning, please.
Yeah, but before we get to mind opening with Ellis, hang on, Ellis. Let's let Niger in his reaction for AG Holder's departure.
Yeah, I'm sure he hated Holder, I'm sure.
Well, not so much that I hated Holder or this particular move of his. I'm scratching my head. It seems to me that an administration led by President Obama and Eric Holder that has made racial issues and made it like America is Mississippi of 1956 and not America of 2014 would resign before the grand jury in Ferguson has even come back with a verdict on that awful shooting, that unfortunate shooting, tragic shooting, regardless of, and we don't know if it was a justified kill or not, but it was tragic when a young man loses his life. And it seems bizarre to me that Mr. Holder, that has made such an issue, and the President of the United States, who has continued to make this such an issue, even at the United Nations, that his Attorney General and point man on that issue would resign. And now with him speaking at the Congressional Black Caucus this morning, I'm finally getting the reason why he may have resigned. It seems to me that the partisanship that he has made of the Justice Department of the United States is going to be transferred into political activity in the field as a private citizen.
So he's crossing out of government service to be involved more heavily and more aggressively in politics, as if
GOTV, get out the vote,
or bring in the vote, given the tolerance of the influx of illegals. But I'm intrigued, Ellis. You want us to open our minds, so we're going to take a deep breath now.
Are you all against voting, by the way?
And we're going to hear how Eric Holder.
We're in favor of legal voting.
I'm surprised that Niger Innis, with his proud civil rights history and family, would be against people voting. But let me say this to you, okay? Let me say this to you.
Illegal vote, that's two votes. Taken away from those who are.
I understand. Let me say this to you. Let me point to you a couple of things that I think you guys, we ought to be able to build a little coalition here, right? One of probably the single largest and proudest thing that Eric Holder achieved in his 6 years was to take a second look at the sentencing rules in the United States federal courts, and has brought rationality, has brought fairness, has reduced the crazy sentences that nonviolent drug offenders suffer, locking people in prison for decades who have committed what frankly probably shouldn't be crimes at all, and if they are, should be minor crimes. That movement was a bold thing to do, to have the chief law enforcement of America doing something other than a traditional lock 'em up law and order campaign, was risky, was successful, and ought to be praised left and right.
Let's take
topic
that.
number one. I'll give you about four
okay,
others, but let's see if we can agree on that.
I want to get Niger's reaction, because what Ellis heralds as needed reform, Niger, isn't that just a prelude to the whole notion of quotas in sentencing? Because that seems to be next.
No, JD, that's silly. No. Newt Gingrich agrees with me.
I wouldn't put anything past this administration and their agenda. But, let's have a moment of kumbaya. I actually think, JD, with both of our strong libertarian bents. We're solid conservatives, but we have some libertarian leanings as well. I actually agree to a limited extent with what Ellis said. I think we do need to examine so-called nonviolent drug offenses and the criminal justice system. But what I disagree with in the part of Holder and Obama is the fact that they still don't get the basic fundamental of the Constitution, which is that the Congress of the United States passes laws and the executive branch executes the laws. And the problem with Obama and Holder is even if they're doing something that I ideologically might have some empathy for, they're doing it unconstitutionally. And the proper way.
I understand. Listen. You guys, I get it.
Let's let Ellis get in on this, Niger. Go ahead, Ellis.
I get it. I mean, listen. You all don't like the president. You don't like what he supports, and you don't. But I'm going to point out some other things that I think that he's really done that we should all be able to agree. First of all, bringing a new look to the terrible situation of capital punishment in America is one of the proudest moments that Eric Holder has achieved. I mean, we have this capital punishment system in this country that does nothing to reduce crime, that goes on forever, that has huge racial disparities in it, makes the world think of us as barbarians, and finally, this Attorney General has stepped forward on it. Another one, voting rights, fighting these ridiculous ID rules, these efforts to suppress black turnout in votes because they tend to vote Democratic. He has been a proud defender. Well, all three of us ought to agree on sentence reduction, capital punishment, and letting Americans vote. Can't we all agree
Even
on
if
that?
we gave you 2 out of 3, this last one is a bridge too far. Niger, go ahead, man.
You know, for me to go into a store and use my credit card to buy a bag of potato chips, do you know what I have to use? An identification. I suppose that's potato chip suppression against black people because
you don't have a constitutional right to buy those potato chips.
Eric Holder was talking about voter suppression at the NAACP convention for having to use an ID to vote. And you know what? To attend that conference, what you have to show? Picture ID. It is such an absurdity. And let me tell you, JD, you know this. Ellis, you know this as well. Before I was at the executive director of the TeaParty.net, I was with the Congress of Racial Equality, a proud civil rights organization that actually
used to be for voting rights
in the right to vote. And for you liberals to compare showing identification with the hell that black folk had to go through to get the right to vote as American citizens is not only absurd, it's insulting.
Well, Ellis, you heard it right there. Go ahead and respond.
It has only one purpose. All these efforts by Republican legislatures across the country to crack down on voting, it is to suppress African-American Democratic voters. Everything else is just a bunch of sophistry and a bunch of hand-wringing. It has one. There is so little actual voter fraud compared to the number of votes that are cast in this country. It's a phony issue, and you all ought to admit it.
That's not true. Go ahead, Niger.
Old voter fraud, voter intimidation, all types of mischief happening at the voter booth. You know how old it is?
How old's that,
pal?
It's
older than Dick Daley's Chicago. It's as old as ancient Rome and ancient Greece. There has been voter fraud as long as there has been voting. And the fact that
voter suppression
those of us that are conservatives, and not just conservatives, just overwhelmingly across party lines, liberals, independents, conservatives, Republicans, everybody believes that voter integrity is a good thing, and voter identification, there's nothing wrong with voter identification.
It would seem to me, and less than a minute remains, but Ellis, his situation's not suppression. What is wrong with people giving evidence that they are who they claim to be to go vote? Even Jimmy Carter thinks that's a good thing, Ellis.
There is no problem. All there is, JD, is a desire to make some people find it more and more difficult to vote. There's a reason, by the way, that it's only Republican legislators across the country that are doing this. You think it has nothing to do with trying to suppress votes from the other side?
Yeah,
Nothing to do with that?
Well, look, we're out of time. Time has gotten in our way. Ellis is getting in his shots. But I will tell you this, pal. We know what the plan is. Let illegals vote. That's next. My gracious, a great discussion. Niger Innis, Ellis Henican, thank you so much. There is more straight ahead on America's Forum, and we'll get to it right after this.